Yep. Hi everyone. So this is a refresher session for the attendees who could not join the call that we conducted for all BGF portfolio companies on the 8th and also on the 12th, as you can see here. So this will hopefully be a quick 20-minute snippet summarizing all the points that we want to share with each one of you for this year's annual assessment that the Holtara team is conducting for BGF. So I'll just move to the next slide. So in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm keen to cover all these points that are mentioned here on the agenda. Hopefully this will help you understand the points that we're keen to cover and equally uh, have all your queries answered. So the first and foremost point, of course, introduction. I am Alok Walke. I am the CSM and working with the BGF account for nearly 3 years now. So I've joined Holtara nearly 3 years ago and I've been working with BGF since my day one here at the firm. Equally, I am a client success manager here with a cumulative experience of about 9 years. And qualification wise, I am an engineer as well as an MBA, and I'm currently pursuing my CFA charter. So that's a brief about me. But be rest assured, it's just not me who's working on the project. We have a host of team members who were present on the call earlier, and equally a set of analysts who work across the globe, including in offices from India, US, and UK, who will be here to support you in this entire project. So that's a brief about me and also about the firm. I'll move to the next point. So the approach that we will be following for this year's assessment, it's largely in line with what we followed in the past. So for people who participated in the previous ESG assessments, they would be familiar, but I would still like to spend a few minutes to explain what we are trying to achieve through this entire process. So coming to the details, so this is a threefold approach that I was alluding to earlier. So the first and foremost is the data collection piece. That is where we would need maximum help from each one of you at the portfolio companies. Basically, this step will involve you and your team logging into our portal, updating the information on the portal, and then submitting all the questionnaires. So to summarize, unlike in previous years, we had two questionnaires, but in this year, it will be one integrated questionnaire on the portal that will be assigned to each one of you. And within that as well, we've ensured that we pre-populate all the relevant information. So the qualitative responses, which hopefully do not change year on year, will be already pre-populated on your account. So the ask in principle from you in this data collection phase is one, log into the portal, kindly review the responses that are already populated and update them if you deem fit. And for the questions or the answers that are currently blank, these will again be quantitative questions. For those quantitative ones, please update your responses as per the latest numbers. So that's the data collection phase. And that's the stage where we would need the maximum help from you. Also, once you are done updating all your responses, please ensure you submit the questionnaires that will lock your current set of responses and send it to our analyst team. Hopefully, we should have no further questions once you submit in the first instance. But if we do have questions from our analyst team, we'll send those select few questions back to your account. And once those are sent, we will also ensure to email you and inform you that the questions are sent back to you so that you can review and make necessary changes to your responses. So I spent some time already on the data collection. The next phase is the data reporting phase, where basically, depending on all the data you provided on the portal, the system will generate a scorecard and finalize all your responses. This scorecard is hopefully a help to identify your company's current ESG standing. So there will be KPIs against which, if your company has taken steps, you will be marked positively. If your company has not initiated those steps, which should be completely fine because every company would be in a different stage of ESG, uh, of their ESG journey. So those will be reflected as blank. So that's the data reporting phase. This will form the crux of the next step, which is the ESG improvement. So looking at your overall company's responses and also on the output, such as this scorecard that's being flashed here, the BGF team will help identify any initiatives. Again, I'm flagging that any initiatives Meaning, if your company is already doing exceedingly well, there might not be any actions to be taken. But in most cases, we will find that be improvement areas where your company can further boost your ESG performance. So this third step will be derived from the outputs of the second step, and this will largely be driven by the BGF team. Sorry. We would also like to flag that Holtara as an ESG provider also provides some offerings in this ESG improvement stage. So we can help you identify gaps and improvement areas or cover aspects such as the carbon assessment. But uh, in principle, in this assessment, it will be largely driven by the BGF team. So that's the approach that I wanted to describe. It's a three-phase process that we are following, and largely the focus or the expectation from the portfolio companies would be in the data collection phase. So coming to the next set. So because most of the participants are being repeated from last year, the questions would be familiar to most of you. However, Voltara as a business keeps updating the questionnaire in line with the latest regulations and framework on ESG from across the globe. So there might be minor tweaks to the questionnaire in comparison to last year. I would reiterate that it's minor and the questionnaire has not undergone a major overhaul. But even those updates are something I would want to flag and inform you in advance. So I'll run through that in the next couple of slides. Yeah. To summarize, the updates are bucketed into three categories. The first one is the mandatory questions that we have on the questionnaire. Then there are some updates on EDCI, which is the ESG Data Convergence Initiative. So and some couple of updates pertaining to EDCI, and the last one is related to climate risk. So I'll spend some time on each one of them. Mandatory questions, like most of you would already know, if a question is mandatory, it would be marked with a red asterisk as you can see here. Some examples of mandatory questions include gender and DEI and also annual greenhouse gas emissions. Second bucket was the EDCI updates that I mentioned. So in this is further divided into a couple of categories. So within EDCI, we have new questions altogether, meaning these were not a part of your previous questionnaire. So examples of which are scope 3 materiality, employee satisfaction score comment methodology, and the cybersecurity vulnerability management. So EDCI is the second category, and within which this is a new bucketing, which is new questions. Then within EDCI, we have two further buckets, which is one, question updates and answer option updates. So question updates, as it suggests, this question in a sense was already being asked in the previous questionnaire, but it is now being reworded. So that's tagged under question 27.1.7.2. And the last category under EDCI is a question that existed in the past, but their options on the answers have a few tweaks that are made. So earlier, the short-term GHG target question had a yes and no bifurcation as an option, but now it has more uh, options to select from. So that's the second EDCI categories update. And the last one is on climate risk. This is something we would want to flag and bring your attention to. So for the questionnaire, against question number 19, there is a new question that you would not have encountered in the past. It's basically a similar standard question which will ask you to download an Excel. So an Excel template has already been attached against your account, and we request you to just download that Excel, fill out the template that's there in the Excel and reattach it on the portal. I'll give you some context on why we are doing this. So participants who attempted the questionnaire in the past would be aware that there was a question on climate risk and opportunities. To help you get a positive score on this question, we are running the assessment of your company's climate risk and opportunities in coordination with BGF. So to determine these risks and opportunities, BGF would need certain details about your business. Those details and the template for which is already attached, and the ask here is for you to upload that Excel, but download that Excel, fill in the data, and then upload the back on the portal. So basis all that information provided, our team can then populate the responses against the climate risk and opportunities, and this will lead to an increase in score against your ESG performance. So that's the third bucket of climate risk under the updates to the questionnaire, and it's available against question number 19. So this is how it looks like. We've taken a snippet from the portal. Question 19 would be already marked as yes for you, and there would already be a document which is basically a blank template. So you are expected to please download that template, fill in the details there, and then upload the same template back again. Uh, just reiterating, this will help you improve or get a score against your climate risk and opportunities KPI. So the next phase is the data collection phase. I'm assuming most of you would be familiar with the portal and you would have access to the portal. In case any of you do not have access, just drop us an email with your name as well as email ID, and our team can add you to the portal and provide you the necessary details. I'll share the email on which you are expected to drop us a note towards the end of the deck. So this is just flagging that there is also an option for existing users to add new users on the portal, but understood that there might be cases where you would prefer for us to do this. We, like I mentioned, we have a host of team members working dedicatedly on this project, and we are happy to help on that front. Just drop us the name and email ID of the person you would like to add. Yes, a last couple of points on the agenda that I would want to run through. First is the quick wins. So there are a few KPIs that VGF believe most of the companies would be tracking already. And if these are reported, then the company stands a better chance to improve their ESG scores. So I'll walk you through what the ask is. Again, if you report on these questions, your ESG performance or ESG scores are likely to increase. So these are 5 points that we flagged, but of course there might be many more that you have information against, and we request you to update against each one of them. But quickly coming back to the points on the slide. So first is total FTs and net new hires. I would bucket these two together. FTs is basically helping you understand the count of employees that you have and how many new hires have you done for the calendar year in question. So we are hopeful that your team or your company would be tracking these. We request you to update your responses against these two metrics. Coming to board diversity. So again, this is something that your companies are likely to track on a year-on-year basis. So diversity of gender and diversity of race and ethnicity at the board level especially would be tracked, most likely be tracked in your organization. Understand in some cases it might not be legal or appropriate to track, but wherever possible, if your company does track this, please report on these numbers in the questionnaire. Whistleblowing policy, pretty straightforward, whether your company has a whistleblowing policy or not. This is because this is a policy question, it would be a yes and no type of question. So if you answer yes to the question that your company has a whistleblowing policy, then it would ask you further detail. It would ask you to attach that document. And the last one is climate risks and climate opportunities. This is something we've discussed in length. This is the same point about question number 19 that I discussed in the previous slides. So last two points on the agenda, FAQs and then timelines. I'll come to the FAQs first. So the first question we usually get is how long would the entire assessment, filling out the entire assessment take? It typically takes about 3 to 6 hours. But like, because I mentioned one, that we've integrated the company profile into the main questionnaire. So it's no more two questionnaires to be attempted, it's just one. Secondly, we pre-populated most of your responses, especially the qualitative ones. And thirdly, we've offered to add multiple people across your teams. So hopefully all these 3 points put together, this will reduce our workload and it should take significantly lesser than this 3 to 6 hours that's mentioned on the slide. Next one is an interesting one. A lot of companies would be at different stages of ESG, like I mentioned earlier. So in case some information is not available or if a policy is not available, we request you to kindly update your response as no, but also leave any comments that would help provide some context to our analyst team and also to the BGF team about your response. So wherever possible, please add comments and give context so that our analyst team can make a note and the BGF team can also make a note of this. This one is very important and crucial to our operations. So we often get asked about the data that's been recorded at Holtara. So we would love to reiterate that your data is strictly private and confidential and can only be viewed by our analyst team and by yourself as the company and by BGF. No other third party would be privy to any of the data that you provide. Of course, we can delete the data permanently at the request if you just drop us a note and copy BGF into that email. And the last one, this is something I've discussed in the past. If you want additional users to be added, just email us with the name and the email ID of the person you would like to add, and we'll ensure this is actioned. One priority, typically we tend to get back to you within a 24-hour deadline. So those were the FAQs. Last point on the agenda, timeline. So we've sent the welcome emails to all of you on the 8th of January. And you would also get your login credentials from this email ID if you are a new user. And we've conducted kickoff calls in 2 batches on the 8th and the 12th. And this refresher session hopefully adds some more context around how to navigate the entire assessment. So this is an important date, which is 29th of January. That's the submission deadlines. The ask here is for you to kindly review the pre-populated responses and equally fill out the responses that are currently blank and then click on an option at the top of your portal called as submit all questionnaire data. This is to be done latest by 29th of January. The next step is data verification. So that's the host of work that we have to do at Holtara, reviewing all the information that you have provided. In some cases, we do observe we have some additional queries / clarification that we need from you. So we will return those set of questions back to your account, and those will be the only ones that's visible at your account. When this happens, of course, we'll ensure to email you, and wherever you deem fit, you may update your responses in alignment with the analyst team and resubmit. So the resubmission is the final stage where we need your help, post which the Voltara team will closely work with BGF to deliver all the rest of the deliverables. So that's the high level summary of the entire project. 29th January is the date we would request you to know. And also, we would like to reiterate that there might be some clarification questions that are sent back to your account. If that's the case, we will ensure to email you and inform, and you may then update your responses. But just some important pointers on this slide. This is the last slide of the deck. So login credentials would be received from this email ID that's mentioned here. In some cases, this might be in a spam folder. So please ensure that you check your spam folder in case you've requested for the login credentials to be sent or resent. 29th January is the submission deadline. And our point of contact that I mentioned earlier is this. This is a shared mailbox that's monitored by the entire team at Holtara, who is dedicatedly working on this project. So any queries or equally any new user additions, please redirect it to esgbgf@apexgroup.com. We are here to support you. So any queries and questions or any help that you need, please copy this email ID. So that's all I wanted to cover in this call. Any questions, please drop us an email and we'd be happy to help you. Thanks again.